This is the actual reading as the needle goes off the scale.
Now, she's only got one filling, hasn't she?
Right.
And if she had 8 fillings...
It'd be 8 times as much.
The United States authorities recommend a maximum safe mercury exposure limit of 10 micrograms a day. But scientists have discovered that dental amalgams alone can produce between 1 and 29 micrograms of mercury vapor a day. So some people exceed the safety limits for mercury just with their fillings.
Do you believe it is safe to use amalgam in children?
Yes, certainly. And I've treated my children with amalgam, and I have no doubt that when they have their own children, they will also require amalgam.
In Sweden, Dr. Lars Friberg, the World Authority on Metals Poisoning, remains baffled at the various attempts by dental lobbies to maintain a rearguard defence for a material whose time he feels has come.
British dentists say that there's no evidence that it shouldn't be continued for use in children.
Yeah, I think there's no basis for such a statement.
I mean, children, are you saying children are particularly vulnerable or what?
They are definitely particularly vulnerable. We know that if you take the young child, I mean, it takes a few years after birth until the brain is developed. And we know that the brain in the children are much more sensitive than in the adults.
You don't think that putting mercury into the brain of a child is a good thing at all, do you?
No, I don't think so.
But it's not just young children at risk. Even the unborn have mercury pollution in their brains from their mother's amalgams. This evidence came to light in a study just completed by Professor Gustav Drasch, a forensic toxicologist. He examined the brains of dead babies and fetuses and found mercury deposits had crossed the placenta into their tiny skulls.
I think the implications are serious. It is a question whether or not we have to restrict the application of dental amalgam to women, not only in childbearing age, but even before. Because you must see, if, for instance, a girl of 15, she gets an amalgam filling, this filling lie in your mouth for 10 years, and all the time, this filling release some mercury. And if this girl go pregnant, let me say 5 years after, she has a mercury inlay in her mouth, and the mercury goes to the baby. So it's really the question now discussed in Germany today to, well, not to forbid it, but to speak about restriction of amalgam fillings for women from, let me say, from 15 to 50 years.
Do you believe it's safe to use amalgam in pregnant women?
There is no evidence to say that it's unsafe.
But are you saying it's safe to use it in pregnant women?
Yes, there's no doubt that the available data we have at present demonstrates that amalgam is just as safe as any other material that we may use for pregnant women.
This is terribly important, isn't it? Mercury crosses the placenta and goes into the unborn.
But you have to, before you say it is dangerous or poses a risk, you have to say that mercury in those places is dangerous. And there's no evidence to suggest that merely because it is found in the kidneys and sana of fetuses and young children, that it is a hazard to health.
Do you think that mercury, one of the most toxic metals known to man, is a good thing in the brain of an unborn child?
There's no proven, as far as I know, there's nothing to prove that it is causing any damage.
Don't you think that this is something that ought to be put into your fact file?
I don't see why we should necessarily worry the population at large if there are no